Hey friends, my name is Hannah Higgins and I share about parosmia here on YouTube and over on Instagram. I'll be posting more videos about parosmia and how to cope with it here on my channel soon, so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned. There's a lot more where this is coming from. When you're done watching this video, head on over to Instagram and follow me there too. I've been sharing all my best tips for living with parosmia for almost a year now. So check out my highlights in the link in my bio to find all of the resources that I've gathered so far. Thanks so much for tuning in. Enjoy the video. Anosmia is a total or partial loss of the sense of smell. Parosmia, a distortion of the sense of smell, is caused by damage to the nerves in the olfactory system. If you originally lost your sense of smell and then noticed your sense of smell becoming distorted, familiar things no longer smelling the way that they should, you probably have parosmia. While miserable, parosmia is a good sign that the nerves in the olfactory system are attempting to heal. For some, parosmia can last only a few weeks. For some, it lasts a few months, and sadly, for some, it lasts a few years. I've learned a lot in this first year with parosmia, and I have a lot of tips and ideas for people who are just getting started and trying to find foods they can eat and ways they can adjust their lifestyle to adapt to their new condition. I lost my senses of smell and taste for about 2 months before I thought that they were starting to return. A few weeks later, and about a month before my son was born, I started to notice a shift in how things smelled and tasted. Later on, I realized that that's when my parosmia first began. I started noticing metallic, chemical, and even fecal smells coming from my essential oils and my favorite foods and even the people around me. I didn't know what was happening to me, and I honestly just thought that my pregnancy hormones were messing with my mind. I was in labor for about 34 hours and could hardly eat anything before, during, or after. I was so hungry and so confused about what my body was going through. At first, all I could manage were things like fruit plates and yogurt and grilled cheese before some of those things even went bad. Coffee tasted like rubbing alcohol, and looking back, I really just don't even know how I survived those first few weeks of newborn life. When I came home from the hospital, most of the food in our house smelled and tasted like it had been sitting in a dumpster for a week. I couldn't eat any of it. At the time, there was no difference in the smell of opening our fridge and the smell of my own waste. All I wanted was to feel full and energized and healthy and able to take care of my son. But in the early days of motherhood, my parosmia was so strong that I hardly ate at all. I lost all 40 pounds of my pregnancy weight in the first couple of months of his life, and since the end of my pregnancy, I've lost 60 pounds. As time passed, more and more food started to fall off of my safe list, and I literally thought that I was going crazy. I tried Googling what I was going through, but I had a really hard time putting into words what I was even experiencing. And because parosmia was not being talked about at the time, I was at a loss for where to go for resources. It wasn't until I stumbled upon the parosmia support groups on Facebook that I started to realize what I was actually going through. For about a minute, a wave of relief washed over me as I realized there were so many more people out there who understood what I was going through and that it had a name. But in the next, my heart broke as I realized how many people were suffering and how many had been suffering for a year or more. I broke down in tears. I was completely exhausted and depleted and just wanting to eat anything that was sustaining and delicious, anything that would make me feel comforted and energized after giving birth. And as I read these stories, my heart just broke because I realized there was no way for me to know how long this condition was going to last. My son is now 9 months old. I am 15 pounds lighter than I was when I got pregnant with him in 2020, and I'm an inch smaller around my hips than I was before I got pregnant. My most intense parosmia triggers are things like meat, garlic, coffee, chocolate, potatoes, eggs, nuts, and nut butters, gasoline, laundry detergent, hygiene products, and even my own waste and body odor. At times, I've even smelled and tasted chlorine in our tap water and in the rain. It's incredibly disorienting to walk around and exist in a world that doesn't smell, taste, or feel the way that it once did. Our sense of smell comes alongside our sense of taste to deliver what we know as flavor. When we can't smell correctly, we can't taste correctly either. It's been over a year since I've been able to taste and enjoy the foods I grew up loving and used to love to prepare for myself and for my husband. I can no longer enjoy cooking for my family. We've eliminated a lot of ingredients out of our home. I have to eat almost everything besides my basic smoothie and oatmeal while wearing a nose plug. We're crossing our fingers that someday this will all go away and I'll be able to return to the foods and activities that I once knew and loved, but until then I only eat at home. Parosmia affects so much more than the smells and tastes of food. It affects the smell of our house, the outside world, the smell when I'm driving, the smell of our household products, my husband's breath, my son's diaper, and so many other things. Our sense of smell is tied to our memories, and it often warns us about harmful things like gas leaks and fires. My brain has not been able to properly identify any of these threats over the last year, and that has had a huge impact on my mental health. While I'm not a doctor, a scientist, or a therapist, I've been sharing my experience on Instagram in order to raise awareness about this condition and support others who are going through it however I can. I have found tens of thousands of people going through this. Scientific studies are currently showing that up to 1.8 million Americans are struggling with olfactory dysfunction up to 6 months, a year, or 2 years after their initial infection. I've received thousands of comments and messages, heartbreaking stories of men, women, and children all over the world in every continent other than Antarctica. I've received messages from young girls with eating disorders, military wives at home alone with their kids, pregnant women who are losing weight their entire pregnancy instead of gaining weight, mothers of young children who are noticing them starting to turn down all of their favorite foods, chefs who can't tell whether the food in their kitchen is rotten or not, childcare workers who can't detect a dirty diaper, nurses and other medical professionals who can no longer use their sense of smell to evaluate, diagnose, or care for a patient, and so many more. For some, parosmia may last only a few weeks, but for others, parosmia can lag on for months or even years. Post-viral smell loss and distortion are not new phenomenons. The olfactory nerves are some of the only nerves that we have that are able to regenerate, so there is hope that this condition will be temporary for most of us who are suffering. The rate of healing, however, seems to vary widely across the board. This condition is wide-reaching, and more people are being added to our numbers each day. No one can truly grasp the devastating weight of parosmia until they've been through it themselves. And as long as I have it, I promise to share everything that I know and all of the resources that I've gathered that have made my own experience even a little bit more bearable. As shocking as parosmia is on the body, it's even more difficult on the heart and on the mind. I've collected all of the resources I have found here in the caption of this video, as well as over on my Instagram, in my bio, and in my highlights. And I'm going to keep making videos here on YouTube to help those who are suffering from this depleting and isolating condition. I'm almost a year into my experience with parosmia, and I don't want anyone out there to suffer through this condition alone. Anytime you need to be reminded that someone out there understands, you can pull up my Instagram or pull up my YouTube channel and know that you're not alone. I've also started hosting monthly Zoom calls to meet with other people dealing with parosmia so that we can support one another, swap ideas, share recipes, and honestly just become friends. If you'd like to start receiving my monthly Zoom invite, you can send me your email address by filling out the Google form listed in the caption below. If you're currently experiencing parosmia, I would love for you to share your timeline in the comments below. If you know someone who's been suffering with this condition, I would really appreciate it if you would send this video their way and point them to the resources that I've linked in the caption. If you'd like to follow my journey and see more videos on this topic, feel free to subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram, and leave requests in the comments below. Hang in there, friends. We're gonna get through this together. I'll see you next time.